Okay, well, I'm pleased to be here today with Mike Maudsley, the Chief Executive of Enfinium, as they unveil their new vision for the UK waste sector. So Mike, I touched upon your vision there. Can you just briefly outline what that vision is?
Sure, Josh. Well, the vision is really a 2040 vision. It's the waste sector vision, so it's not specifically focused on energy from waste. You know, the vision is that we will have less recyclable waste. The society will have reduced the waste that they produce. So there's less coming through to energy from waste plants, and ultimately those energy from waste plants, there'll be less of them. And so we've got to really be focusing on what they can do and how they do things. And they will be decarbonisation hubs. That is the vision. So they will be using the waste, homegrown energy, creating homegrown energy, but also passing out energy into the communities, or even creating electrolytic hydrogen into the communities, but also capturing the carbon that they would emit. So a complete decarbonisation hub, but the whole of society will have reduced a lot of their waste is the main point.
And I mean, one of the measures you're calling for is a sort of end of waste exports and combustible waste to landfill. Do you think that's almost overly ambitious?
We have to be ambitious to get the things right and in the right order. Ultimately, the emissions trading scheme is coming in 2028. The whole industry is supportive of this scheme, but to do that, we need to be able to manage where the carbon is emitted. And all that process really means that we shouldn't be putting anything to landfill. Combustible products should not go into landfill, and we should not be exporting our problems abroad. That waste can be used as our own homegrown fuels.
And a major thrust of what you're calling for ultimately is less waste. What needs to change in order to achieve that?
It's really a lot of the upside, the upfront and recycling process before we even get to the energy from waste plants. So the return deposit scheme, that's very important, but also driving the producers of the products to start with to end first recycled plastics. It's got to be very clear that all that's got to be out of the market before it comes to us.
And you mentioned earlier about energy from waste plants becoming decarbonisation hubs. Can you just elaborate a bit more about what you mean by that, really?
Yeah, that's my passion, my ambition. So decarbonisation, basically we already do this. Energy from waste plants, we decarbonise society already by not allowing the waste to go to landfill. So we're doing the first part of the process. But then when it comes to us, we create heat and energy. We need to use that heat and that energy in the best possible way for the local communities to help them to get to net zero. So as I said, we can create heat distribution systems for local communities, businesses. We can create electrolytic hydrogen. Half our waste as it stands at the moment is biogenic, so that means half of our hydrogen that we would produce would be green, which is fantastic. And then ultimately on top of all this is we've got the carbon capture vision and ambition. So we capture the carbon. 50% of that carbon is a zero content in terms of not increasing society's imprint. But if we capture that, we can create carbon removals. We can take it out of the atmosphere, really.
That's really interesting. And then, so all of this sounds great, but what would be the most helpful thing do you think the government could do today to enable all of this to happen?
Basically try and listen to the policies, but number one is that we recognise 2028 things will change from an emissions trading scheme point of view. So helping us get to that point would mean stop landfill or combustible landfill, stop combustible exports. Also help us where there's a lot of energy from waste plants in the country that are not local to the clusters that are identified, and we do want to put carbon capture on as many EFW plants as we can. So providing a scheme to get us into that so that we can capture our carbon and store it underground. And then where we've got heat networks is giving us support for the decarbonisation plans, so as we decarbonise communities, there's a support mechanism for that.
Brilliant. That's the end of my questions. Mike, thanks so much for your time. It sounds a really exciting time, and I look forward to seeing more about what you guys are up to.